Hi guys, my name is Suyog Shrestha and I'm going to be giving you a presentation of my senior project through the PowerPoint. So the title of my senior project is The Effect of Remittances on Ethnic Tension, and this is a joint senior project submitted to the mathematics department as well as the economics department. Now, um, when we look at the figure of remittances on your left, you can see that the amount of remittances has been increasing significantly. And in 2019, for example, there are several countries whose the remittance share of GDP was as high as more than 37% of their GDP. So that's a very significant amount that is being attributed to the remittances. And on the left, you can see that this ethnic tension, the variable, and this ethnic tension is a particular measure of the subconflictual level of ethnic problems, right, or ethnic conflicts. Now, the subconflictual level means that it's not a direct manifestation of actual violence. It doesn't account for that, but it represents like something, a potential for ethnic violence, let's say. And uh, and this index is actually measured in a manner that the higher the index, lower the actual ethnic tension, and lower the index, higher the ethnic tension. Now we can see that this ethnic tension, it has a certain pattern. Now we do not directly see whether it's increasing or decreasing in relation to remittances from the figures, but we're trying to explore the relationship, because remittances, as we know, is very significant economic variable in a country, and a lot of research has been done to explore the effect of remittances on other like political and economic variables, but it has not been studied in terms of its impact on ethnicity in general and ethnic tension in particular. So we want to figure out the relationship between them. Now, in the literature, what has been talked about are these three different channels. Now, whether or not remittances increases or decreases ethnic tension by inequality, by government expenditure, and by corruption. Now, in this short presentation, it is difficult to explain these channels in detail, but I explained them thoroughly in my introduction section in the senior project, as well as the channel, as well as this chapter dedicated to the channels specifically, right? And for example, to tell you briefly, remittances could increase inequality in a country where, for example, the group of countries that already are relatively richer, they go abroad and they send money back home, then it actually increases inequality, right? It That's one possibility. There could be other variation, but to speak in a simple language, now if the poor people, if the relatively poor group in a country, they actually move abroad and they send money back home, then actually it could decrease inequality potentially. So these are what the channels is. But the problem in the literature is that we are unable to establish actual theoretical impact of remittances and ethnic tension. So we're not really sure whether it actually increases or decreases ethnic tension. So there is this basic problem of indeterminacy, and that is why we actually need to do a statistical analysis. And that is what exactly I've done over here. And as you can see in the PowerPoint, my main dependent variable is this ethnic tension. And remember, higher this index of ethnic tension, lower the actual ethnic tension, and lower the index, higher the actual ethnic tension, because it will be significant in our interpretation of the data later on. And there's a list of regressors over here. You can always refer to my actual senior project. And the methodology that we're using is called OLS with panel characteristic standard errors. And because this ethnic tension is an index that ranges from 0 to 6, and it doesn't change to vary much in countries, generally we have to use a method that suits for this kind of data. And based on the literature, we figured out that the general like panel data methods is not suitable. So we use what is called this OLS with panel characteristic standard errors. And there are two ways in which two kinds of major mean regression model that are run. And in this first model, which is called segregation by variance, first kind, I'm categorizing the countries into two groups. The first is a set of countries in which the range of the existing ethnic tension is less than or equal to 2, and the second in which the range is greater than 2. It means the variance in the first set of countries in terms of ethnic tension is lower than in the second countries. And this number 1 and 2 represents this same regression done on those two sets of countries. The first set of countries with lower variance, and the second set of countries with the higher variance. And you can see that the coefficient of remittances over here is higher in magnitude than the coefficient of remittances in the second set over here. Now, both are significant at the 0.001 alpha level, right? You can see by these three asterisks. Actually, this one is less significant. So there is, in terms of significance as well, as this is more significant. But the more important observation that we have observed that hasn't been observed in any other literature so far is that remittances, the effect is higher in magnitude in the first set of countries that has lower variance. So that is very significant observation that we have made. And then the other set of sets of regulations that I run is where I divide the countries based on their relationship with the global panel ethnic tension, panel mean of the ethnic tension. So what that means is, I find out the panel mean. It turns out to be 4.001. And then I divide the countries based on the first set is the countries whose ethnic tension is less than or equal to the global mean. And the second is where they have greater than the global mean. So, as I said earlier, this index works opposite in terms of its actual representation of ethnic tension. What it means is this first set, where it is less than the panel mean, means countries with higher ethnic tension than the second. So the first countries, they have higher ethnic tension in reality, right? So now you can see in this model that the coefficient is negative over here, whereas it is positive. So that means that this first set of countries, remittances are actually increasing ethnic tension, because lowering means higher ethnic tension, right? So the remittances are actually increasing ethnic tension if the ethnic tension is already higher. And we see this result repeatedly in several models that are run with different variants and variations. And this that I've not presented in the presentation, of course, because of lack of space and time, but you can refer to the appendix section of my actual senior project. And the earlier segregation by variance, where I divide the countries based on the range, I repeated that model, the regression models in with different variances as well, and the exactly same kind of interpretation. So this particular effect of where we see that remittances is increasing countries, increasing ethnic tension in the first set of countries where they have higher ethnic tension, very significant observation that we have not observed in any other literature before, right? And there are other key observations that we can make from these regulations, and I've explained those in the senior project as well. So please check them out. And there are a list of further questions that we can now explore for further academic research. For example, simply these first two set of questions that I'm asking is just figuring out the channels. Remember the channels I talked about in the beginning, where I said that there is a sort of indeterminacy in terms of the channels, right? Now that we have established a relationship between remittances and ethnic tension with certain variations, right? We have to figure out the channels. For example, why is remittances increasing ethnic tension in the countries that already have higher ethnic tension? What are the implications of that, right? What should the countries that have higher ethnic conflict should be doing? Um, what are the policies that they should be making? So that requires a study of the channels. So these are the first two questions, and then there are other questions that I put based on the observations that we get from the data. For the sake of time, please check out the senior project itself, as I'm not going to explain it over here. And thank you for watching my short presentation.